right, so welcome again to this new episode. We are sort of advancing from our previous episode that we did lay bare the problems and the issues we have about being hungry in this country. And the statistics, and they're quite overwhelming. And I think it's time now we sort of, speak to President Kenyatta and tell him, this is what we can get to do. We are young people very excited of solving problems, solving food security in this country. Now let's speak to President Kenyatta. So maybe I can begin with Boniface. First of all, I know I've not introduced you, so I'm going to let you say who you are, and then you say who you are, then we can begin with you getting to contribute to the discourse.
Thanks, Dr. My name is Boniface Mnene. I'm an economist and development economist for that matter. I'm a researcher. I'm also a consultant, private consultant.
I'm Denis Chalo. I'm an agricultural economist by training. I'm a policy analyst in terms of profession, and highly interested in terms of things to do with agriculture, climate action, and also youth-related issues. So I'm definitely excited about food security.
Great. Yeah, I'm Judy Fuguli. I do a lot of research around social justice, and I also teach for a public university here in this country. And that sort of introduces me on the other way of being a financial expert. Let's now delve into the matter that has brought us. I'm going to engage these two gentlemen, getting to tell us what needs to be done and by who and when, possibly, they have a lot of information in this area. So, karibu sana. Can you go forward?
Sure. And there's quite a number of things that can be done as far as the agricultural sector is concerned. And one is value addition. This is an aspect that we've discussed for quite a number of years. From 1965 to date, we are talking about value addition. We need to operationalize this aspect. The importance of value addition is, if you do value addition, our agricultural products are going to fetch high prices in the international market. Along the value addition value chain, again, you are going to create employment for the youth. And for information, agriculture has great potential, has great multiplier effect as far as employment creation is concerned. So let's put our foot on the ground and implement these policies as they are. And I'm impressed by the current Cabinet Minister for Agriculture, that's Honorable Munya, because he has put forward very good policies. We are seeing now policies insisting value addition to the milk, value addition to the coffee, value addition to the tea. And this is what we are saying. We need to do this to all other aspects of the agricultural product. And by doing so, I believe that we are going to take this country somewhere in terms of food security.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting perspective. And now that you mentioned value addition, one thing we have to appreciate is we lose a lot of food to food wastage, especially because it was not well preserved. And we have numbers to say it, around 14% of food being lost between the producer, who is the farmer, and the table, the consumer, even before it reaches the market. That's a lot of food. So your value addition will not only add money to the pockets of farmers, but will also enhance the shelf life or the preservation aspect of food. So that's a good thing, and I really like it. But another thing that we can do actually to enhance food security is aspects to do with the digitalization. Yes, it's a world whereby technology is evolving, and Kenya is doing quite well in terms of technology. And this technology should not just stop at the computer's level. We should trickle it down to agriculture. And I've seen quite some innovative approaches to enhance access to markets, because markets have always been a concern to farmers. A case example is like Viazi Soko by the National Potato Council. It's used to ensure that farmers who are producing potatoes, say somewhere in Nyandarua, wherever it is in Kenya, they are able to know what is the price of potatoes in Mombasa, where do we have deficits of potatoes, so that they can take it there. These are platforms that are created by actually the youth, But we can have such platforms even for other crops, be it vegetables, be it maize and everything, or even one universal platform where people can buy and sell. Yeah, where actually the same way we have applications to deliver food to people, we can have similar applications for farmers, and it can enhance their access to markets, so that we'll not be talking of food going to waste due to lack of markets. So that I feel is another thing that can be done.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you brought in the aspect of digitalization, because we need to ask ourselves, how can we get to incorporate the use, taking advantage of digital technology that is there at each and every level of value chain, the value chain of food system, like at production level. How can we make sure that we take advantage of digital, or rather the technology, to help farmers do the right thing? Because we begin losing it if we don't get farmers have the right seed, plant during the right times, harvest during the right times, and store food the way it's supposed to be. And all these things can be enhanced through using, applications like you say. And something else I think you might also want to add on it is that the concept of trigger foods, farm to fork, like getting to cut the value chain such that if a farmer gets to produce food, they do not have to sell it in the market, rather sell to other brokers who can, who buy at a very cheap, prices, and then they get something small such that they don't even have money to buy inputs for the next planting season. So do you want to talk about the concept of farm to fork?
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. And you gave a very good example. And one challenge we have to appreciate is the aspect of markets. But we still have opportunities. And this is through market linkages, whereby we are talking of things to do with even contractual farming, whereby farmers are not just producing without knowing where to sell. You know where to sell first, then you start producing. So let's have companies like the likes of Trigger Foods, Tropical Heat, for example, or even maize millers getting into contracts with the producers, that is the farmers, signing an agreement that I need this and these bags of potatoes, of maize, of vegetables, let's say tomatoes, to make either jam or make tomato sauce, whatever it is. We have contractual arrangements with farmers. And this can only happen if, for example, we take advantage of our farmer groups. Kenya, the group way of doing things has been there since the time immemorial. It's not a new concept. But if we take advantage of such groups that, of course, they have the bulking power so that they can be able to put together what a big industry needs. And then the industry signs contracts with such groups and they are able to supply. That can really work to address that particular issue of that direct partnership with the processors and linkage to markets.
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah. Dennis, I agree with you. And on top of that, I feel that the government should put in place the EPZ, okay, the export processing zones, so that in this point, you can be able to bring our produce at one point, okay? They are processed and exported. At the same time, the government can put in the subsidy, export subsidy, so that they encourage farmers. If you export this amount, we give you this subsidy, okay? And in connection to that, I can talk about the aspect of the cost of inputs. You find there's a great barrier to the youth involvement in agriculture, because you find the cost of production is too high. For instance, I might be interested in fish farming, but the question is, can I afford the seedlings, the fingerlings? It becomes very expensive. And that's how actually you need to ask ourselves, what's the cost of production in Kenya? For example, why, and I always ask again, why should a fish from China be cheap than a fish from Kisumu? Aspect of cost of production. So if the government can be able to address the aspect of cost, then it means our produce will be cheap and they'll be able to compete with the other product in the market.
And one thing Boniface has said right is our cost of production. And another example is actually, do you know producing maize in Uganda is cheaper than Kenya? Just because their cost of seeds, fertilizer, and the general cost of production in the country is relatively lower than our country. Therefore, it would make sense for a miller to buy maize from Uganda, bring it to Kenya and mill it for maize flour. So it makes sense to reduce our cost of production. But one other thing that I also ask myself is, we always talk about droughts, water not being sufficient and the like. We are surrounded by big water bodies, not only the ocean, which is salty, but even fresh water bodies, which we can actually even tap water from such water bodies, pipe it even to semi-arid areas. I ask myself, how much would it cost to build a pipeline from Lake Turkana, for example, to the surrounding areas of Turkana and semi-arid areas in the region? How much would it cost to probably construct a big dam? When it floods, that area becomes a disaster. That's a lot of water. Construct a dam there, probably even be used even to the very least subsistence farming in the region, or even to water the animals, because that area is largely pastoralist communities. So such kind of large-scale investments that have long-lasting impact to the people would actually increase our ability to produce food, even for domestic consumption, even before we start talking about exporting. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much for that contribution. And even though this might call for another session, we also must appreciate that there's cartels in this industry, because, I know you like really talking about that,
Yeah.
but in such a way that we have people, of course, I'm talking with fear, right? I don't want to say without fear, but talking with fear, that who have to ensure that we continuously have a food security problem. So is it anything that you want to say something about?
Daktari, I totally agree with you that there's a problem, and this problem sometimes is artificially created to create market for some people, and this is due to conflict of interest. So what I would recommend is, if a project is being implemented, okay, let the government officers keep off. Let's not see them. They are the ones who are supplying materials. They are the ones who are contracting this and that. Let them keep off. Let's do the private-public partnership. Let's hand this project to the private sector. Once they deliver, let them add back to the government. Because we have a good example of successful private-public partnership. Just the highway we are constructing from Westland to all the way to Syokimau. Yeah, that's a private project, okay? Partnering with the government. Again, apart from that, there's an aspect that I cannot go without talking about. That is wastage. In most of African countries and Kenya, it's not that we don't have enough food, okay? We have, but the problem is the storage. You find like in one season, we have a lot of harvest. Farmers are saying they have plenty. But again, after 1 year, people are crying there's no food. Why? Because this food went to waste. So we need to inform, educate our farmers through the extension officers how to preserve food so that we can use it in the next or in future.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So if you avoid wastage, then it will save us the problem of importing product from other countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ideally what you're saying is that, yes, there's a problem about the amount of food you get to produce, but there's a lot that goes into waste. And obviously, if we can tap into getting to have good storage systems, then that would mean that we could save, for a rainy season. A rainy season in the sense that a season that we are in a hard place, that we do not have sufficient food. So I would like to invite Dennis probably to tell us something to do with financing, because you as a farmer, for you to be able to actually partake all these recommendations we are giving, there is need for you to be enabled. So do you want to just tell us what can be done?
Okay, yeah, farming by itself is an investment. We always talk about agribusiness or farming as a business. And there is no business that you don't require capital. It's not just going out in the field and planting seeds. No, there's more to it because you need to even invest in the infrastructure in terms of the storage facilities. You need the equipment to do the farming. You need quality inputs. All this costs money. And a concern is usually, most people, to do a good business, you must get capital. And where do you get capital? You get it from mostly formal financial institutions. While farmers have those, they have groups, merry-go-rounds, and the like, where they are able to pull together some resources and share. Sometimes the amount of capital that you need to do a good business in agriculture can only be found in formal financial institutions. And a concern with these formal institutions is farmers are risky clients because first, agriculture is seasonal and rain-fed to a large extent. Second, it means when a disaster like drought and flood strikes, it means these farmers lose everything. And if they are not insured, because most times agriculture is not insured, it's not like a normal business. So it means giving them credit is a concern. So what can we do? We need something like a credit guarantee scheme, which can actually be spearheaded by the government and the development partners. This, in very simple terms, means putting money in one kitty and using it like a collateral so that in case the farmers are not able to pay, we are not going to grab their land. We are using this money to secure the credit. And then it gives the courage to our formal financial institutions to actually lend to them. Of course, we not only rely on that, but also encourage them now to pull more and more resources together because the cooperative movement in Kenya is quite strong. Let them pull together their resources, borrow from such cooperatives to invest more in agriculture. So that could be a way to address the financing issue in the sector.
Yeah. So actually, Dan is talking about finance. It reminds me about our land policies and land ownerships, especially for the women, for the youth. Because if you move to these banks or the credit institutions, the first thing they'll ask for is, where is the guarantor? Okay? And you find that due to our traditional cultural practices, women are not allowed to own land. Okay? So it becomes a big challenge. And these are the most productive people. So it means if we can change our land policies so that women can start owning titles for the land, youth can start getting titles, then it means they will develop that confidence so that even if they put farms into productivity, they know this is my farm. Because what happens is you find these people, they struggle in the farm, they don't have any title, they don't have anything. So the property, the harvest goes to the husband. Okay? Mm-hmm. But once they feel that they own this piece of land, then they'll be motivated. They'll be encouraged to be more productive.
Correct.
So we need to look at that land policies.
Correct. Yeah. So we are coming towards the end of this session, and we will do this session a lot of injustice if we don't talk about regenerative agriculture. Because right now, the things we do today should be cognizant of our children and great-grandchildren who are coming tomorrow. So that when we are doing agricultural practices, we also encourage at a larger scale the government to sort of put mechanisms to ensure that we are practicing safe and ecologically, friendly agriculture, if we so say. Yeah. So then I know you've done a lot of work around that area. So do you want to tell us what regenerative agriculture is? And even in what way can the government just, ensure that we embrace that?
Yeah, when we are talking about regenerative agriculture, is that one thing in very simple way is that production is a cycle. What is used as an input here becomes an output there. And what is an output or the result of what you produce becomes an input in the cycle. So it's like a circle. For example, if you grow, for example, maize, the same maize will produce maize, the seed, but you'll still have the husks and everything to become manure and back again to the cycle. That means if we don't use the right inputs, if we overuse, for example, chemicals, because we are in a world that we are also appreciating technology, but should we use technology, especially agrochemicals, to the extent that we are even destroying the soil quality? should we use this kind of systems if in the future we'll have poor quality soils, we'll have a damaged environment. We are talking of issues to do with the greenhouse gases. Where do they come from? They come from some of these agrochemicals we are using. Yeah. So one thing we should actually encourage is what we call ecological agriculture, whereby we are encouraging minimal use of these chemicals. There are even research that has been done around even plants that repel pests. So the integrated farming with such kind of plants. We are talking about even farmyard manure and natural systems of even ensuring that we don't overuse the kind of irrigation systems we have, whereby we are not using sprinklers while we can use more efficient water systems. So those are the kind of things we should look at for a sustainable production system to exist and to ensure that in the future we don't have a destroyed environment just to feed us today. And like what you mentioned about food losses, you know, when we lose food, it means we go back to the environment to produce more food. Mm-hmm. So if we are also able to control food losses, means that less pressure on the environment, hence more sustainability. Yeah.
I'm about to touch a very volatile area, and you know, he's one very funny guy. He's talking about things that that has cartels and whatnot. What is your opinion about the GMOs? Do you think we can do without GMOs in this country? Because that is part of regenerative agriculture, and it's something really to appreciate as we have this conversation, because there's the whole hula baloo that the reason why cancers and all this kind of illness is escalating is because of GMOs. And there's a whole question of whether in Africa, do we really need GMOs? What do you have to say about that?
I would say yes, I would say no. Yes, we need GMO because currently we have food shortage. And I would say no, because we've not exploited or have any use of producing food organically. So we should not copy what is being done somewhere else, okay? Because in Africa, we have fertile land, we have good climate. So what we need to do is to do serious farming. And you find that one of the aspects promoting this GMO thing is the land subdivision. You find that the lands have become too small, so you cannot grow plenty of food. Mm-hmm. So what do? You resort to GMO, okay? And what you said is right. I don't want to say that choices have consequences, but with the GMO, remember this is a genetically modified product. So it goes without saying that they have some side effect. Mm-hmm. And probably that's what you're talking about, the cancer. So for the Kenya, I would say that we've not reached that point of going for the GMO. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm sure you really don't want to say the political aspect of GMO because probably you've oversaid it in other forums. So, yeah. But thank you very much, followers, for getting to listen to us address this concern of food insecurity in this country. We are going to have continued discussions in our social media platforms. So please be on the watch out, and we hope that your comments can help us to understand what are the other pressing areas that you can get to talk about in our next discussion sessions. So thank you very much.